shining a spotlight on the insane asylum that is modern-day California. It's the John Phillips Show.
And a very happy Wednesday to you at 12:07 in the West. It's the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wang's in Culver City.
John, we are broadcasting live on the radio on 790 KABC and 810 KSFO, and for the first time, live on video. If you want to watch this show live, we're going to be live for the next 3 hours. You can go to KABC.com or KSFO.com, and you have all the links on there, but real simple. If you go to the KABC or KSFO Facebook page, we're live on there. If you go to Johnny Don't Like on Twitter, you can see us on there. If you go to Cumulus News Talk on YouTube, you can go there. You can go to Randy Wang Radio on Twitch, you can go there. And we highly encourage you to participate in the chat. If you put a comment up, we can put it up on the screen, and share this live feed. Repost it on your social feed. Let everyone know what you're going to be watching for the next 3 hours as we premiere the live video broadcast of the John Phillips Show.
And I've already figured out how to use the chat. Listener David wants to know, how are the paint fumes in the room that I'm sitting in right now? And the answer is, now I know what it feels like to be Courtney Love. Actually, let me rephrase that. Now I know what it feels like to be carried to term by Courtney Love.
Oh, boy. We're starting there, aren't we?
Well, we're happy to be with you, not just on the radio, but on your computers, on your phones as well. And please feel free to participate in the chat function on the program. And, of course, you can always call in at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222, or email us at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. All right, Randy, let's go ahead and provide an update for a story that's been plaguing Boyle Heights now for over a week.
And for this story, we're going to need our friend Katie Porter.
You can smell it right here.
Because the situation going on in Boyle Heights is getting real smelly real quick. Matthew Seedorf, who is no stranger to danger, went down there to talk to the locals about how smelly it's getting down as the LAFD is still putting out this fire. Apparently, there is a hot spot that they just can't get to through all the debris. So even though they declared it a knockdown, it's still going. It is still going, and there is still stuff going on, which means there's water going into the runoff. And just wait till you find out what is been in that freezer that is rotting. For this, we go to our inaugural report on the live video stream. You can watch this story along with us. Here is Fox 11 and Matthew Seedorf.
We start with the overwhelming cleanup effort in Boyle Heights, where crews are tackling the aftermath of that massive warehouse fire. The city giving Lineage Logistics 45 days to clear out all the rotting food causing that terrible stench in the neighborhood. Let's check in now with Fox 11's Matthew Seedorf, who's live out there with an update. Matthew?
Anytime it is a story that involves danger or strange smells, Matthew Seedorf gets the first draw.
How does that guy not have cancer yet?
Well, Glenn, the smoke is getting a whole lot better, but the smell is not. Take a look at this. This is the massive warehouse and all the millions of pounds of food rotting. The smell could get worse before it gets better. An up-close look at what's now filling the air across Boyle Heights with a sickening stench.
Like a dead animal.
Well, it's also an environmental disaster. I mean, that one woman that we heard from yesterday, she's getting strange rashes all over her body, and she hasn't even had sex with Eric Swalwell.
Oh, boy.
Spoiled crab meat, beef, and pig feet.
Oh, no!
So gross.
I don't know of all those three which is probably the foulest smelling, but I'm going to go with the bad crab.
What were pig feet even doing in that building to begin with?
Well, it was a cold storage facility. It's where you freeze certain foods that then go out to distribution centers that then go out to supermarkets.
Are you sure it's not the place where Rosie O'Donnell and her girlfriends got manis and petties?
Oh, boy. All of a sudden, now that we're broadcasting on social media, Johnny's decided to work blue today. Save the real blue stuff for the accountability podcast.
All right.
Millions of pounds of food rotting more each day. That's disgusting. Have you ever smelled anything?
You know, just after his first couple of years reporting in Los Angeles after coming here from Texas, I feel like Seedorf needs to write a book.
He needs that Katie Porter drop.
You can smell it right here.
Like this before?
Nah.
Martin Ramirez owns an auto shop right across the street. The smell so overpowering, it literally makes him sick.
Oh, my goodness. You know what? There are a lot of things that we don't get to experience when we're just doing this on the radio. But when you get to watch this story, you get to see this guy who just happens to have his business right across the street dry heaving from the smell.
Okay, do you think it's from the smell or from the lunch he ate from one of the food trucks?
Smell, they go into my truck. I had like, what's it called? To vomit.
Gagging.
Yeah. It's not something you want to be smelling, you know? You don't want to wake up and be like, it's a beautiful morning, and with that rancid ass dead body smell, you know?
You know, sometimes our field reporters out there are like miners, and sometimes they strike gold, and today they struck gold.
Now, a race against decay as officials warn that rotting food could create a public health and biohazard risk, attracting pests and bacteria. Last week, Fox 11 first exposed rats swarming near the property. Those rats now gone, replaced by dozens of traps around the warehouse.
Seedorf, you get a tetanus shot lately?
He's going to need more than one shot. You're going to have to turn that guy into a pincushion.
First, the smoke or this?
The smell. I'd rather deal with the smoke.
Are you worried about that, the smoke and breathing that in for so long?
I mean, I've done drugs all my life, so, you know, like, I'm pretty sure I've inhaled some worse than that.
Why did this guy not want his face to be shown? He's incredible.
Yeah, gee, I wonder why.
Odor blasters spraying a perfume like mist.
What? That's like a gigantic industrial-sized Lysol? That's not going to do it.
Well, you know, when you walk down Main Street at Disneyland, they pump out vanilla scent into the area because it's likely to make you more inclined to buy the pastries and buy the food and buy the candy and everything else that they're selling there. So maybe they're just taking a page out of the old Walt Disney book here.
I think you're going to need to do a little stronger than vanilla. You got to do what they used to do at the mall, where they just waft the smell of Wetzel's pretzels.
Crews begin removing more than 40 million pounds of spoiled food.
They really don't give a about us.
Okay, but if you're doing drugs 24/7, I don't think you care much either.
This is the electorate.
Karen Bass issuing an executive order giving Lineage a 45-day deadline to clear out the debris.
By the way, that's interesting because they're still not letting Lineage in there because the fire's still not out.
Yeah, how could you start the clock now until the fire is fully extinguished?
Because it made us look good to say the fire was out last week.
I don't know when these things finishing.
Between the smoke and smells, neighbors ready to breathe fresh air again.
I just want them to get rid of the food so like it could stop smelling.
So at least 40 million pounds of rotting food to clean up. This is going to be...
Boy, this is like that story that we had in Holly Mitchell's district where people were just dumping pallets of expired pork times 1,000.
Massive cleanup effort in the coming days. We're reporting live in Boyle Heights. Matthew Seedorf, Fox 11 News.
Yeah, Matthew, you have been out there a lot in the last couple of weeks. 45 days to get this cleaned up. Do you think they're going to make it? That looks like a lot of work ahead.
Yeah, you know, that's a tough question because we are seeing those crews starting to clear it out, but we're really not seeing the massive trucks coming in and swooping it all away. So it's going to be tough to see. Hopefully they do for all the residents out here, but it could be close.
All right, Matthew Seedorf live tonight in Boyle Heights with the latest on that warehouse cleanup.
Was that just a firework that went off in the background?
Probably.
Mexico won last night, so my neighborhood sounded like it was at a war zone again.
All right, so that's what's going on right now in Boyle Heights. But it's not the only environmental disaster going on right now in the state of California. For an update on what's going on at the Tijuana River, Mr. Randy Wang.
Well, Katie, we're going to need you once again, my dear.
You can smell it right here.
Because once again, we have an update as to what is going on the Tijuana River, and there's actually been some improvements. Both segments in this A block are titled, You Can Smell It Right Here. For more on this, we go to a report from NBC 7 in San Diego. Here we go.
Environmental Protection Agency says great progress has been made in the decades-long sewage crisis along our border. In an update released today, the EPA listed several milestones with Mexico. As NBC 7 South Bay reporter Joe Little shows us, that includes finding the silver lining when 2 sewage pipes broke in Mexico during construction.
So according to the U.S. EPA...
This is another guy that draws the short straw. Every single time there's a Tijuana River story, Joe Little has to go down there.
How does the union allow this?
South Bay International Wastewater Treatment Plant down here in San Ysidro is doing its job. Mexico is doing its job. They are convinced that this sewage crisis down here will be fixed by 2028. Yes, 2028, even though looking down...
Only 2 more years of having such bad sulfur in the air and so much debris that you cannot use the ocean.
Just think about it. In 2028, we can ride the high-speed rail all the way down to San Diego, and then we can go on a boat on the Tijuana River.
Oh, boy.
You can smell it right here.
Down from this bridge over the Tijuana River, you can still see the trash, the tires, the disappointment. Yes, 2028, because the Environmental Protection Agency says...
You know, this is one of those stories where you definitely get a feel for it listening to it, and we've covered this extensively. But when you just see the color of the water coming out of those pipes...
That's not a natural color.
No, it's not.
Looks like antifreeze.
The U.S. and Mexico keep checking boxes from agreements they signed last year.
These projects all represent components of a larger solution.
EPA Regional Administrator Michael Martucci says Mexico is now taking on 2 major components. A pump that should eliminate catastrophic sewage discharges into the Tijuana River and what's called the Tijuana River Gates.
Is exactly...
What is that foam?
At first, I thought it was snow, but there's not a lot of snow at the Mexican border.
Nope.
What it sounds like, this is going to also be focused on managing flow, especially during wet weather events.
The gates will block sewage from entering the river when it rains. Administrator Martucci also said, oddly enough, 2 ruptured pipes in Mexico that leaked sewage into the river last month showed improvements in Mexico's emergency response.
Well, talk about a low bar.
At least they fixed it quickly when it exploded.
We are getting early notification of potential flows coming down the river, impacting communities.
That allowed American crews at the South Bay International Wastewater Treatment Plant to ramp up staffing and handle millions more gallons of sewage than it usually treats.
What do you think it's like working at that plant when every month you get a call, well, the river exploded again, we're going to need you to work overtime?
Hey, Bob, it happened again.
San Diego County Supervisor Paloma Aguirre applauded the progress, but added these long-term investments must be paired with immediate action, including eliminating pollution hotspots and advancing complementary infrastructure. She means this hotspot that aerosolizes polluted river water and buying air purifiers for people who can't wait until 2028 to breathe clean air.
I don't think the air purifiers are really going to be enough. They're not going to be enough here or in Boyle Heights.
That's the answer for all of these disasters. Why bother cleaning it up in the first place? Just get everyone a HEPA.
County and state are trying to address some of those issues. In the meantime, Martucci applauded Mexico.
And they continue to make steady progress.
In the Tijuana River Valley, Joe Little, NBC 7.
So,
as part of the agreement, the United States is releasing money to Mexico for reaching certain milestones. That money is withheld as a way to hold Mexico accountable to its obligations.
So what they're saying is it's improving.
Why is it that we bother to do things like eat spinach and broccoli? Because you go to the doctor and they ask you what your diet's like, how often you exercise, do you use sunblock, all of those things. Because the whole point of that is to not get cancer. You want to live as healthy a life as humanly possible so you don't end up in chemotherapy. And then you look at what's going on in Boyle Heights, and you look at what's going on in the Tijuana River, and you say to yourself, why am I bothering with all of this broccoli? I could eat every product that Little Debbie makes, and the result is going to be the same.
We've got a comment here from David who writes in on Facebook. Radio is theater of the mind. My imagination did not prepare me for how bad this river is and the Boyle Heights story. I almost dry heaved.
Well, that's why you have to take all of these precautions when you go there. I thought when Katie Porter went to the Tijuana River, I thought she converted to Islam. But no, she was wearing a hazmat suit.
You can smell it right here.
And I don't blame her. I'd be wearing 3 hazmat suits. Could you imagine going to that river right now in the current condition?
So what you're saying is we won't be doing a live broadcast at Imperial Beach anytime soon?
I think I'd wear a spacesuit. I'd look like Buzz Aldrin chipping golf balls on the surface of the moon. Did you see what Alan just put up in the chat?
What about how to pronounce Tijuana?
No. You guys walked this last weekend breathing in this stuff.
Well, Alan, writing in on Twitter, to be fair, we were told the fire was put out. What we were not told is put out doesn't mean fully put out yet. But this is true.
It's like someone smoking in their car. Did you put out your cigarette? Oh, yeah, I put it out. Throwing it out the window of the car does not mean you put it out. It's the John Phillips Show.
I just got an email from listener Craig. We're going to be in Santa Fe for one day tomorrow. What is your best recommendation for a family with 4 young kids? You talk about green chili a lot. Okay, I'll tell you, because I've taken my 3-year-old niece to the Shed, and she had a great time because you can have the red chili enchiladas. You can have that green chili burrito. You can have the green chili stew or the green chili stew mixed with the mushroom soup. And the kids can have a grilled cheese or a quesadilla with apple slices. It's great for kids, and they even got a little drawing thing. It is a wonderful restaurant. Make a reservation if you've got a time, or just get on the waiting list at 4 o'clock. It is my favorite restaurant in the world. I'm a big fan. And I'm a big fan of Santa Fe. If you're going anytime this summer, send me an email at randywangradio@gmail.com, and I'll give you all my recommendations of all the places to hang out in the city of Santa Fe.
It's the John Phillips Show. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, if you want to watch us perform the show live, that's easy to do.
We are currently streaming live all over the place. The easiest way to find all of the links is go to kabc.com or ksfo.com. But we are on the KABC Radio Facebook page. We're on the KSFO Facebook page. We're on John's Twitter at Johnny Don't Like. We're on my Twitch at Randy Wang Radio. And we're on the Cumulus News Talk YouTube channel. And what's great is you can not only watch it, if you leave a comment on the video, we see it and we can put it on the screen. So if you want to interact live with us, you can do so by watching us every single day from noon to 3. We will read your comments. We'll respond to some of them, read some of them on the air. We'll even play some of them during the break. So check it all out. Go to kabc.com or ksfo.com. Oh, we're late for a break. I am a big fan of Clark Fielding and the Jaws of Justice at Fielding Law. I have been talking about Clark for over 8 years. That's how long he's been helping out KABC listeners. If you get hurt in an accident, I highly recommend that you call Clark Fielding, get a free consultation, and find out if you have a case. 833-88-SHARK, 833-887-4275, 833-88-SHARK. Even a minor accident can lead to a major long-term injury. So don't go at this alone. Get the Jaws of Justice on your side, helping you out with your case. That's Clark Fielding at Fielding Law. 833-88-SHARK, 833-887-4275, 833-88-SHARK. And go to the website, clarkthesharklaw.com. That's where you can download the accident preparation guide, a handy little thing that I have in my glove box. Get it today at clarkthesharklaw.com.
Hurt in an accident? Bite back. Call Clark. 833-88-SHARK. clarkthesharklaw.com.
It's the John Phillips Show. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. And Randy, you just mentioned that you can watch us perform the show live, but we're also now producing a once-a-week standalone podcast.
It's called the Accountability Podcast with John Phillips and Randy Wang, and it is a weekly show where we get to give you exclusive content that we don't give you on the radio, including John wanting to talk about the Chrisleys and their criticisms of California, but also we decided to do a deep dive into why we believe Gavin Newsom will never, ever, ever be president of the United States. That is now live. You can go to KABC.com and you'll see a link for the Accountability Podcast. You can search on Apple Podcasts for KABC and you'll see it pop up there. You can also find it on YouTube at youtube.com/@Accountability Podcast. And if you're having any trouble finding any of those links to subscribe, just send us an email and I'll give you the links directly. We want to make sure everybody checks it out. It is a video podcast, but you can also listen on audio every single week. The Accountability Podcast with John Phillips and Randy Wang.
Accountability.
In the meantime, what do you say we make a couple of listeners very happy?
Well, let's do that right now. 790 KABC welcomes Willie Nelson and family at the Pacific Amphitheater on June 12th. Tickets are on sale now at packamp.com. But right now, caller number 9 at 1-888-790-5222 gets a pair of tickets to the show. All concert tickets are good for a one-time admission to the OC Fair on Wednesdays or Thursdays. Tickets furnished by the Pacific Amphitheater. Good luck dialing.
There was a push in Sacramento to make it illegal for registered sex offenders to hold public office in California. So, of course, that means Scott Wiener had to kill it in committee.
For more on the situation going down in Sacramento and why they wanted to make sure that we did not ban sex offenders from running for office, here is KCRA3 and Ashley Zavala.
California lawmakers today killed a bill that would have prevented registered sex offenders from running for public office. Earlier this year, a registered sex offender, Rene Campos, tried to run for Fresno City Council.
He didn't get enough signatures to make the ballot because when he went door knocking to collect the signatures, he had to start every conversation with, "My name is Rene Campos and I'm a registered sex offender."
You know, I just thought of something though, Randy. Let's just assume for one moment that the registered sex offender was successful in their political endeavor and you were represented by a registered sex offender in the state legislature. Wouldn't they be easy to spot? Seriously, though. Imagine the 4th of July parade, and you know all the politicians, they sit in the back of a convertible. All the politicians, they'd be in the classic cars. The cars that you would expect them to see. Maybe some would be riding horses. Not the registered sex offender, though. The registered sex offender would be the only one in a van with no windows. Now, that being said, they would certainly have no shortage of candy to hand out to everyone there.
The thing is, when you talk about registered sex offenders, those are the ones that were caught. Think about how many elections Eric Swalwell won while he was doing all kinds of alleged raping up and down the state of California.
Okay, maybe what you do is you just have to change it. So instead of relying on the fact that they're on the registered sex offenders list, why not just say, hey, you're no longer eligible to run for public office in California if you have more than 45 stamps from Thailand on your passport.
Today, lawmakers had a larger debate.
What if you just really like larb salad?
There's always Hollywood Boulevard.
I will say, anyone that you know that goes to Thailand like once or twice a year, you do have questions.
Over what kind of criminals should be blocked from running for offices at the state and local level. KCRA3 Political Director Ashley Zavala explains what happened.
Democrats here at the state capitol are divided over whether people convicted of sex crimes should be allowed to run for public office.
And of course, because this is California, this is a real debate.
Okay, of all of the things that registered sex offenders have to deal with, and I assume that no one will hire them, I assume there are plenty of places they're not legally allowed to go. Is running for public office something that's at the top of their list?
One of the things that was discussed in Fresno when Renee Campos decided to run is, what if you need to go to a ribbon cutting at a school? You can't go there.
But with today's action...
Although you could argue, do we really need this law? Do we really need to ban sex offenders from running for office? Do we have so little faith in the California electorate and the average California voter that we think they would ignore the fact that someone's a registered sex offender and put them in office anyway?
No, I don't know enough to give you any good information, but good luck finding someone who does.
Well, in the old days, wasn't it true that if you were convicted of a felony, you couldn't even vote? And then we changed that?
Well, we don't want to disenfranchise people that have made a mistake in their life.
And people who are registered sex offenders or people who have been convicted of serious child sex crimes can still run for city council, school board, or the state legislature here in California. So the bill killed today, AB 2753, would block anyone that has been registered as a sex offender from running for office.
And this bill was written in direct response to Renee Campos saying that he was going to run for office, which, by the way, that whole race lasted about a week.
California has a 3-tiered sex offender registration system. Tier 1 is up to 10 years on the list. Tier 2 is 20 years, and Tier 3 is for life. The chairman of the Senate Elections Committee, Democratic State Senator Scott Wiener, was worried about casting a wide net and would only pass this bill if it only applied to sex offenders in Tier 3.
Tier 1 and Tier 2 sex offenders, those are fine with Wiener.
10 to 20 years on the list is fine?
I would love to see what the tiers are, but he wanted to make a distinction.
Who wrote this bill, Assemblymember Esmeralda Soria, refused to take that amendment, and the bill died in essentially a tie vote. Here's what Soria had to say after.
Extremely disappointed, and I feel like I'm still trying to process what we just saw come out of Senate Elections Committee. But I think the fight still continues. I made a promise to my community that we would try to make sure that what happened earlier in this year when Mr. Renee Campos decided to announce that he was going to run for office, a registered sex offender, that we wouldn't see that type of things happening in our community. And so we'll continue, this fight here in Sacramento to make sure that it is loud and clear that the community supports our efforts to ensure that no registered sex offender is able to run or get elected in state and local office.
Okay, she has been around the block a few times, and I don't mean that way, but she's an elected official in California. She understands the dynamic of trying to get a bill through that Senate committee. She knows what kind of chairman Scott Wiener is. How could she not know that this would be the result?
Maybe she thought that Wiener would be on her side with this one, but turns out she had to go against Wiener.
Lawmakers in that same committee did move forward with another bill prohibiting people convicted of felony sex crimes from running for office, but mainly if the victims are adults. I'm told the committee watered this bill down so that...
Wait, if the victims are minors, then it's not a big deal? What is happening right now?
These people are all so stupid.
People convicted of felony child sex crimes like rape can still run for office. Again, that includes...
How about school board? Could they
school board, city council, and to be a state lawmaker, just to name a few public offices. Democratic Assemblymember Dawn Addis is the lawmaker who wrote this proposal, and she accepted those changes from this committee. Here's what she had to say.
We also have a criminal justice system. And folks do go through, punishment and justice.
Does she have the Michael Jackson filter on her camera?
She certainly has that MJ hue, doesn't she?
Definitely the late 90s to early 2000s MJ.
through that system, and we didn't want to unintentionally wrap in what's commonly known as Romeo and Juliet kinds of situations into this elections bill. And that's really about younger people. You might be a 17-year-old and you're dating someone, you turn 18, you become an adult, you're still dating that person.
Yes, what's the point of having statutory laws? It's love.
Did she refer to that as Romeo and Juliet?
Yes. I'm not as brushed up as I should be on my Shakespeare to know what the ages of those two were in that story, but something tells me that there's more to that than is usually performed in the play.
And there's, things that...
How can we go after people that sleep with 17-year-olds? There's only 5,000 classic rock songs about it.
That may happen under the criminal justice system that we just certainly didn't want to unintentionally wrap into this bill. But I will re-emphasize, I still think more work needs to be done.
Now, since they wanted to make sure that people that sleep with 17-year-olds can still run for office, they could have called it Matt Gaetz's law.
Okay, here's what I'd like to know. How many people who are 18 years of age get in trouble, get convicted of a sex crime for having sex with a 17-year-old? I would imagine you're talking about a very, very, very tiny population of people here.
Well, especially if you're talking about that it was consensual, because you still have prosecutorial discretion. However, if it was something more than consensual, if it was assault, just because he's 18 and she's 17 doesn't mean a damn thing.
Workers break for a month-long summer recess starting this Thursday. They come back for one more month of lawmaking for the year. That's when they could pass or kill more proposals moving forward. Reporting at the state capitol, Ashley Zavala, KCRA 3 News.
So there you go. There is the report from Ashley Zavala on the California State Senate killing the potential bill to make it very difficult for sex offenders to run for office.
Scott Wiener's had quite a week. He got kicked out of the Trans March because they said that he was supporting genocide in the Middle East. He got harassed at a restaurant in the Mission for the same reason. And then he got a standing ovation at some event that he went to in the Bay Area. I guess his supporters felt that he was being mistreated in both of those instances. So now he hits the reset button and he says, okay, we're going to start things off anew. I don't have to worry about any of that stuff that happened before. That's in the past. Let's shake it off and move forward. What can I do today? How about this? Let's make it legal so that Chester the molester can run for school board.
He's most likely going to make it in his race to Congress. Maybe Connie Chan can pull it out. The Pelosi endorsement didn't do her a lot of help. But regardless of if Wiener goes to Congress or not, him not being in the state Senate is only good for California, because it is way harder to do the amount of damage he's done in the state government at the federal level.
It's the John Phillips Show. the John Phillips Show. The Fix California Hour coming up after the news at 1. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. And if you're watching us perform the show today, you can participate in the chat like listener Timothy, who just said, like in Seinfeld, Randy Wang, I thought I was listening to a Chinese man.
It's a long story, but here's the short version. My dad found out 5 years ago he was adopted.
So we can put the rumor to rest. You are not, in fact, Chinese.
No, and Randy Wang is also not my name. It's Ryan Wong.
All right. If you want to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com.
Oh, I got one from Will here. Wiener goes to Congress. Is that like Mr. Smith goes to Washington, the sequel?
Could be.
Will, we got to get you in on the chat.
Let's go to Dale in Long Beach. Dale, hello.
Hello, Ryan Wrong. Try to say that 3 times real fast.
Haven't heard that before.
Hey, did you hear about Gavin Newsom saying that he balanced the budget until 2028?
He put out a 12-minute video celebrating all of his accomplishments. I watched the entire 12-minute video. I didn't hear any accomplishments.
Well, he said he balanced the budget until 2028. So why do we need the billionaires tax?
It's a good question.
There's never enough money. That's why. Well, and we know why, because the SEIU says that they got to fill up their pension fund, and that's where a good portion of that money's going to go.
All right, fellas. Thanks for taking my call.
All right. Thank you for the call, Dale. It is now going to be more expensive to get harassed by a bum on the bus.
Not just the bus, but transit agencies up and down the Bay Area, including ferries, including the toll to get on the Golden Gate Bridge. They're all going up in price because, well, inflation, of course. For more, here is Cron 4.
Unfortunately, it's going to cost you more to travel through the Bay Area, with toll increases hitting the Golden Gate Bridge, the ferry, and BART parking lots.
They don't toll you if you walk the bridge, right?
No, I've actually done that before.
So the weather's good, but everything costs a ton. Ground Floor Stephanie Rothman explains.
On July 1st, all Golden Gate Bridge toll rates will increase by 50 cents as part of a multi-year toll increase program.
Every year, the cost of paint, of steel, of fuel for our buses and ferries, of maintaining our fleets go up a little bit every year. And these toll and transit fare programs help us keep up with those rising costs.
The Golden Gate Ferry Regional...
If I'm not mistaken, and each project is different, each project is written individually, so I'm not going to make a big grandiose statement here. But typically, when you have a public works project like a bridge, isn't the fee supposed to be temporary until the bridge is paid off, and then the fee is supposed to go away and the bridge is supposed to be there for public use?
Well, what if you have ongoing maintenance? Like they said, paint and, having to replace things, especially when you have a bridge as old as that, it definitely needs maintenance every now and then.
I wonder how often they have to replace the net that catches all the jumpers.
Transit fares will also increase up to 25 cents, and a ride via the SF Bay Ferry will also increase by 10 to 30 cents.
That's not bad. For all the inflation we talk about, another dime to ride the ferry is not a bad deal.
Speaking of this, did you ever hear that joke that Bob Hope did when he hosted the Oscars?
No.
Okay, this would get him canceled if he were to tell it today. So Bob Hope is hosting the Oscars, and he walks out on stage. True story. And he goes, this is the setup to the joke. Did you hear that the Statue of Liberty just got AIDS? And then there's this pause, and then he goes, what they don't know is if it came from the Long Island Ferry or the mouth of the Hudson. Imagine that on network TV in front of all of Hollywood elites in the room.
That's great.
Really is keeping us in line with everybody else. It's still a very affordable option. We're still talking about, close to $5 for a ride across the Bay Area.
And you're not sitting in that Bay Bridge traffic.
Hey, as long as I'm moving, I'm fine. So sign me up for the boat.
With no traffic and a lot of great amenities.
Meanwhile,
Okay, I didn't know this because I've never taken the ferry. John, they have a bar on there?
Oh, can you buy a frequent flyer card?
That sounds like the way to get into San Francisco with a cocktail.
While at BART, parking rates will increase at Glen Park, Rockridge, Walnut Creek, San Bruno, and West Oakland stations. But rates will...
Don't park your car at the West Oakland BART station. You're going to get bipped.
Not if you want it back.
Decrease at Castro Valley and Union City stations. The rate increase ranges from 50 cents to $4.10 at the West Oakland station and will be used for maintenance amid a budget deficit.
And this is, of course, on top of the transit tax that they want you to vote on in November.
Well, I think this is part of what they plan on doing in terms of their campaign for those initiatives. If they say, look, we're so broke, we have to raise the cost of the tickets, you better pass this tax increase or else we're going to continue to do it in more draconian ways.
So there you go. Increases for all kinds of different fares getting in and out of the Bay Area, but the ferry is going up 30 cents. That's fine. Get a drink.
Imagine riding that thing and hanging out next to that bar the entire time you're commuting to work. You'd show up to the office looking like a drunken sea captain. God bless Alan Hale. All right, we've got 2 more hours coming up. Don't you go anywhere.
Something's not right here.
Crime is up all over the state.
The homelessness in the city is out of control.
The economy is sick. Taxes are high.
Housing is expensive and businesses are leaving. California needs fixing. And John Phillips is just the man to lead the charge. It's the Fix California Hour with John Phillips and Randy Wang.
And we continue at 1:05 in the afternoon on the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wang's in Culver City.
Got a great email here from Kevin, who writes in at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com on the advantages of taking the ferry over BART. The primary advantage of the ferry versus BART is that if someone's doing the fentanyl fold on the tracks, BART is stuck. But if someone does the fentanyl fold in front of the ferry, they sink to the bottom of the bay, and then the body is floating, and the ferry just steers around it. The ferry from Marin to San Francisco has a dice game on Friday nights, and the drinks are flowing. That is great.
800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. It is our pleasure to welcome our next guest to the program. He is a former member of the California Senate, a former member of the California Assembly, a former member of the Kern County Board of Supervisors, Senator Roy Ashburn. Welcome. There was an election last night in the state of Colorado where the results mirrored what we saw earlier in the state of New York, where DSA candidates had a clean sweep, and the mayor of New York City, who's arguably the most famous DSA politician in the United States, endorsed all three of them. Before that, there was an election in Maine where the choice of the Democratic Party in Washington, D.C. was defeated by a DSA-aligned candidate. Now it looks like the same thing could happen in the state of Michigan as they prepare to vote. What do you make of the fact that the DSA just keeps running up the wins in these Democratic primaries, and the Democratic establishment candidates continue to get kicked in the teeth?
Well, obviously, there's a huge change taking place in the Democrat Party. And I would say those who have been in control, those that would have been referred to as the leaders of the Democrat Party, they're in panic mode because they've lost control. This party is moving to a place that it is maybe never been before, and extreme left, and certainly way outside the mainstream.
It seems that when Democratic Party leaders go on TV to talk about these election results, instead of acting as if there is an occupying force that is trying to take over their party and use it for their own personal means and their own ideological agenda that's not the agenda of the Democratic Party, they seem to be welcoming them with open arms, where they put out tweets welcoming them as potential members of their caucus. Certainly, they're having private meetings with them. Kamala Harris apparently just called for a private meeting with Zoran Mamdani, the mayor of New York City. Why do you think the Democrats are acting as if this is not a full frontal attack on their institution?
Well, it's sort of the way that Democrats have conducted themselves, which is by appeasing, by kind of overlooking, never confronting. Remember, that's all part of the wokeness, is that we don't confront, we don't challenge, we don't say that something is wrong. Heaven forbid that we call something out. And so, I mean, ask Scout Wiener about this. This guy has been as leftist as you can be as a state senator from San Francisco, now running to replace Nancy Pelosi. And over Gay Pride in San Francisco, the event where he should have been celebrated, the guy is being berated and harassed. And rather than confronting the harasser, he just walks on as if you know he can't be touched, or that he doesn't dare challenge for fear of greater retribution. There's a lunatic fringe in the Democrat Party, and it is on display right now. But the Democrat leaders, those who have been, quote, more moderate in the past, they have no clue how to handle this.
What do you think this means for the 2028 presidential election? Because if these primaries can get out of control for the Democratic establishment, I would imagine the same thing could happen in the 2028 primary.
Oh, I think that's absolutely possible. And, more immediately in 2026, the midterms, Democrats who had hoped to take the Senate and the House, by nominating these crazies, they're going to have a really difficult time.
Well, and you look back historically at, let's just say, cycles when Republican candidates have done well. There have always been candidates that have been one bridge too far, whether it's Christine O'Donnell, who ran for the U.S. Senate in Delaware, or Sharon Engel in Nevada. Even when Republicans did well nationally, candidate quality still matters. And if you nominate people who are regarded as being on the political fringes or lunatics or communists or whatever, you still could lose an election that you're favored to win.
No doubt about that. And so, it's happened in the Republican Party too in the past, where Barry Goldwater in 1964 was very likely, obviously, in the result, a bridge too far. And it's flipped around, and now certainly the Democrats have got a big problem on their hands.
What do you think Democratic voters do who are not part of the DSA? Because you look, for example, at the No Kings protests, and I drove by many of them. There were many in my area. And what you saw was a lot of gray hair. You saw a lot of old guys with gray ponytails. You saw a lot of women on walkers. You saw a lot of handmade signs. And that is the core of the Democratic establishment, at least in terms of voters. But then you look at the parties that happened in Colorado or New York or Maine, where the DSA candidates did well, and you didn't see that crowd. You saw a lot of young people. You saw a lot of people who were college educated, a lot of purple hair, a lot of piercings, a lot of tattoos. You saw that crowd, two very distinct, different crowds, where those people, the young people, were genuinely left-wing and genuinely socialist or communist or however you want to describe them. The people at the No Kings protests were not that. What they were hard partisans. But what do hard partisans do if their own team has been taken over by something that they're not? Do you think that they could vote Republican? Do you think that they could stay home? Or do you think that they're going to bite their tongue and vote for the communist?
Well, I think the most likely would be to wait it out, to not show up, not participate, or go with the communists. I don't see them switching over. I've seen those same No Kings protesters with a lot of gray hair, and there's no way they're ever going to vote Republican. Certainly not as long as Donald J. Trump is the unquestioned leader of the Republican Party. Look at his influence in the party and the outcome of primary races, including those challenging longtime Republican incumbents. There's no way those folks are ever going to go there. But, James Carville, for example, who's gotten pretty nutty lately, most recently seems to have sobered up and is kind of acknowledging, hey, folks, something happened and we've got a problem on our hands.
What do you think Karen Bass is thinking today as she looks over these results?
Well, Karen Bass, I suspect is really concerned about the challenge by Rahman. She was praying for Spencer Pratt, and it didn't happen. Her percentage of the vote was frozen, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere. So, she's got to be worried.
It seems like longtime Democratic incumbents, people who are up there in age, people who have been in office for a long time, people who have been in leadership or been in positions of power within the Democratic Party, those are the ones who are being targeted right now. I mean, one of the candidates who lost last night in Colorado is a woman who has been in Congress for multiple decades, and certainly Karen Bass fits that mold as exactly the type of Democrat that's being beaten by a socialist candidate.
Well, you've seen it on the Los Angeles City Council over these last several cycles, where Democrats, certainly those that would be described as liberal Democrats, who had been in public office for a long period of time, had demonstrated public service, had served in other political bodies, systematically they've been wiped out. And a much more radical group of people who are completely unknowns all of a sudden emerge and have knocked out incumbents. This has been building for a long time. It just has splashed onto the national arena in a way that that I think a lot of people are surprised to see, even though the groundwork has been laid for this for a long period of time.
Some of those people who lost these elections, Kevin De Leon, Gil Cedillo, others, if you were to get a couple of drinks in them and ask them what they think about what's going on, what do you think they'd say?
I think they'd say that their party has moved radically to the left in a way that may make it unelectable, impossible for Democrats to be elected in the near future. And this is only going to grow, because the source of this seems to be from immigrants who have come into the country and are now voting age and flexing their political muscle, and students off the college campuses. I mean, for decades, we've been talking about indoctrination of students on campuses. Those two forces seem to have aligned at just the right time in terms of the radicalization of the Democrat Party.
When you think about what kind of anger existed in the 2024 election, 2016 election, when the Democratic candidate ultimately ended up going down in defeat to Donald Trump, it seems like the left took it a lot harder in 2016 than they did in 2024, because in 2024, the polls were never looking good for Grampy Joe. The polls were never looking good for Kamala Harris. They knew there was a strong possibility they were going to lose that election. But in 2016, they all thought that Hillary Clinton had it in the bag. And when Hillary Clinton lost the election, we remember those images from her party in New York City where everyone was shell-shocked at the same time, in real time. And that's when you saw a lot of people protesting, he's not my president, he's not legitimate, all of those things. This is another one of these elections, this midterm that is going to happen this November, where historically speaking, the party out of power, especially the party out of power in year 6 of a president's term, is expected to not only make gains, but make big gains. And when you look at Donald Trump's approval rating right now, and you look at where the Democrats are in any number of states that will decide who's in control of the Senate, who's in control of the House, they should be in a position to win control of at least one House of Congress. But if you go out and you nominate a bunch of Looney Tunes, you might end up losing. Can you imagine the anger that we're going to see if they lose yet another election to Donald Trump that they're supposed to win?
Well, there will be a lot of anger there, but it won't matter because the party itself, the party that didn't get to their goal, it has only itself to blame. I mean, they're the ones. You can't blame it on Donald J. Trump if in the midterms Democrats don't win in these districts there where they might have a chance. When they've nominated somebody who just cannot win a general election, especially if, as we talked about a few minutes ago, the establishment Democrat, I'm talking about the voters themselves, people who have identified as Democrat in the past, that they're liberal, a lot of them have gray hair now. If if they stay home in even small percentages, the party will not be able to win these seats that would be necessary in order to have a big win in the midterms.
Some of these seats where Democrats have done well are deep blue seats. So even if the candidates aren't good, they're still going to be heavy favorites to win in November, which means that they're going to be part of the Democratic caucus. Now, you served in the Republican caucus in the Assembly and in the Senate. I would imagine that those meetings can get heated at times when you're talking about strategy, when you're talking about what to prioritize, what not to prioritize, how you're all going to vote on certain legislation. The way that it works is that, in theory, all of you have the same mission. All of you are trying to push the ball in the same direction. If you then take that caucus and you fill it with people who don't share the same mission, who don't share the same ideology, who want to hijack it and use it for their own purposes, I would imagine that those meetings are going to be chaotic, to say the least.
Well, caucus meetings among party members in, I suspect, any legislative body, whether it's the United States Senate, House of Representatives, or in a state legislature where I was privileged to serve, under the best of conditions, they're chaotic because you have a lot of people with a lot of egos and a lot of their personal interests and aspirations. And, you know, the leaders are trying to hammer out and come to some kind of a direction. Hopefully most people can buy in and put their own interests aside. It's going to be extraordinarily difficult when it's already a difficult situation. When you have people who have, it seems as though these Democrat socialists in the Democrat Party their agenda is completely off from what most Democrats would identify as the agenda of the party. I mean, people, I think, are having a very difficult time accepting what appears to be their agenda. I mean, there's just outright hatred toward Israel, for example, is just something we've never seen before.
Well, I mean, you look at some of the other boutique ones that don't get as much attention as the hostility towards Israel, but are nutty, to say the least. I mean, a lot of these people want the government to take control of the airlines. They want to get rid of TSA because they said that it's biased against those who have criminal records. They want to get rid of the prisons. They want to eliminate the border. And you go, okay, if you're a Democrat running in a purple district or a purple state, you can't have any association with that at all. Otherwise, you're going to lose.
Yep. No, that's absolutely true. And those are the issues that folks have on their minds, especially as they're accentuated by the Democrat socialists as the main planks of their agenda.
Roy Ashburn, former member of the California Senate, former member of the California Assembly. Thanks so much for stopping by.
Thank you, John. Great to be with you and your listeners.
It's the John Phillips Show. You know, when people think about serious injuries, they usually are thinking of broken bones, something obvious. But one of the most serious injuries people deal with after an accident is actually vision loss. After a car crash, a fall, or a head injury, your eyesight can change, sometimes right away, sometimes weeks or months later. Blurry vision, double vision, headaches, trouble focusing, and a lot of times the eyes look fine, but the brain, it isn't processing what it's seeing correctly. That kind of injury affects everything: your work, your driving, your independence. And if someone else's negligence caused it, it's not just an inconvenience, it's a real long-term issue. That's why I trust and recommend Fielding Law. They don't just look at what's obvious, they understand brain and vision injuries and how deeply they impact your life. If you or someone you care about is dealing with vision problems after an accident, call Fielding Law at 833-88-SHARK or find them online at clarkthesharklaw.com. That's clarkthesharklaw.com. Fielding Law, kind people, serious lawyers. It's the John Phillips Show. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're monitoring the mailbag.
Patricia writes in, listening in NorCal at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. John and Randy, during the late 90s, I used to commute on the ferry from Marin to San Francisco. On the evening ride home, they had 3 bars, live music, and free hot appetizers. It was a great way to end the day after working downtown, basically a floating happy hour.
It sounds like one of those Kathy Lee cruises.
That sounds like so much fun. All right, I want to live somewhere where I can take a ferry to San Francisco and work from there. That sounds like a cool life.
And Randy, if you want to, you could watch us perform the show live today.
We are broadcasting live on the radio as well as on video. We are at YouTube at Cumulus News Talk, and although we have a lot of people watching on there and commenting on there, we have to figure out why those comments aren't aggregating on the feed where I can put them on the screen. But someone called Landrew7280 just wrote, more Shang Tao. Okay, I'll give you more Shang Tao.
That's right. I like that. That was amazing.
But we're on X at Johnny Don't Like. We're on Facebook on KABC and Facebook on KSFO. And we're on my Twitch at Randy Wang Radio. And if you're on any of those platforms and you chat and you comment, it shows up on the screen and we can put them on the main page here.
And coming up next, we're going to open up the California Crime Blotter. Don't you go anywhere. Okay, I want to read you one of the 5-star reviews for CarPro.com. This from Tom in Santa Monica. He said, our salesman Paul at Lexus of Santa Monica was extremely helpful and friendly. He had me test drive the vehicle on both smooth and bumpy streets to demonstrate the Lexus ride and drive. After presenting our CarPro VIP certificate, we received CarPro VIP pricing. We were offered a fair price for our trade-in. Paul explained the leasing process, then handled all the dealings within the dealership. We're very happy with our new Lexus and the CarPro process. If you want that kind of concierge VIP treatment, there's only one way to get it. Go to CarPro.com, enter your zip code and what you're looking for. Or you can call or text message the head honcho, Tom Haynes, directly on his cell phone at 818-435-6797. That's 818-435-6797. CarPro.com. It's the John Phillips Show. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, in addition to being able to watch us perform the show live today, we also have a brand new standalone podcast, the Accountability Podcast.
And if you haven't listened to it yet or watched it yet, you should do it at 3 o'clock today.
Accountability.
The Accountability Podcast, our inaugural episode, we did a deep dive into why Gavin Newsom will never, ever, never be president. You can get it at KABC.com. You can also search for KABC or KSFO.com. You can also search for KABC on Apple Podcasts. It shows up there. Or you can go to YouTube.com/@Accountability Podcast. If you're having any trouble finding it, just send us an email and I'll give you the links to it directly.
Listener Mike just posted in the chat, hey, you guys are great, but if they fix California, you won't have a job.
Don't you worry. They're not fixing California anytime soon.
I think the only person, although I turned out to be wrong about this one too, the only person who had stronger job security than us happened in the 1980s, and that was for the translator on The Big Spin.
Well, the only other person that's got perfect job security is Henry Lee, the crime reporter at KTVU Fox 2. He will have a job for as long as he wants to.
That's true. Speaking of which, right now it's time to open up the California Crime Blotter.
It's happened yet again.
I see. Time for the California Crime Blotter.
And this edition of the Blotter is of particular interest for both Newman and Cliff Clavin.
Somebody used a crowbar to break into a mail truck in the East Bay. For more on this, we go to KTVU, Fox 2.
The burglary of a mail truck in the East Bay is now under investigation. Authorities say this is just about a daily occurrence. Our crime reporter, Henry Lee, live in Oakland after taking a look.
See? Job security.
Remember when the worst thing the postman had to worry about was dogs biting them?
Now, John, this is another reason why we needed to evolve this show into a video format. And you can watch us right now. All the links are at KBC.com or KSFO.com. But, John, do you notice what's on the postal trucks in Oakland behind Henry Lee?
Oh, yeah. They're all graffitied.
And what happened, this is a story we did about a year ago, is that there's so much graffiti on so many postal trucks, and when the postal trucks drive into the wrong neighborhood and the gang sees the opposing gang signs on the postal van, they get shot at.
And it's really a man bites dog story, because usually you'd think that the bullets would be flying out of the postal van, not into the postal van.
Look at two recent incidents, Henry.
Well, Greg, postal inspectors tell me these are often crimes of opportunity, with mail thieves hoping to find credit card statements, bank statements, you name it, to help make a fast buck. A postal truck break-in caught on camera in the Rollingwood neighborhood near San Pablo. Surveillance video obtained by KTVU shows a Lincoln Nautilus SUV slowly backing up to a postal truck at about 10 Monday morning.
If you can afford a Lincoln Nautilus, why are you breaking into maybe that's how you paid for the Lincoln.
Maybe they just thought, hey, those jury summons are mine.
Carriers out on the street delivering mail. The suspect, who appears to be a woman, gets out while carrying what appears to be a bright yellow crowbar. After a few tries, she was able to bust the rear roll-up door open and steal mail before running to the SUV and taking off. Here's another look at the SUV. Postal Inspector Matthew Norfleet says it may not be the only incident linked to...
So we've got a female suspect, a woman with a crowbar stealing mail. How many tattoos do you think she has visible on her cleavage?
3.
The woman.
We believe there may be others, so we think this person might be committing the same crime in that area repeatedly.
Well, they sure seem to know what they were doing, like this wasn't their first time.
It's not even Christmas. What of value is in that truck?
He says thefts from mail trucks happen frequently and are often...
Well, maybe... just maybe, they were in an area with a whole bunch of people that are in SAG-AFTRA, and they were trying to steal all those settlement offers for our data getting breached.
Maybe. They could always, I guess, rob the Amazon van, but then you're going to end up with a bunch of orthopedic shoes.
And crimes of opportunity.
Unfortunately, this is probably a something between a daily and a weekly occurrence across the Bay Area.
He says
that makes me feel safe in the postal system.
The target of mail thieves, anything of monetary value.
Checks, credit cards, basically anything that can be converted into money.
The postal carrier...
Yeah, between this story and the story in Napa County, where everyone who was mailing their property tax checks got those stolen in the mail, it's 2026. I don't own a checkbook, and I don't know any legitimate reason to be writing a check nowadays. It is not safe.
I still use the U.S. Postal Service to pay my bills, but I guess at my core, I'm a 85-year-old woman.
Yes, you are.
Back and found the back door damaged. In Berkeley, I've learned a mail thief 3 weeks ago was able to bypass a locked and secure gate and get into an apartment building in the middle of the night on Benvenue Avenue. It's a leafy street in the city's South Side neighborhood near UC Berkeley. 2 victims reported their credit cards were stolen from mailboxes. The thief apparently used one woman's Chase account to pay his own.
You know, this is why I feel like all the credit card companies need to start ponying up and do what American Express does. When you sign up for the MX Platinum, they send you via FedEx the next day that card. They're not trusting that card in the regular mail, that's for sure.
Oh, no, and it's all pretty in the box, too.
Well, you're paying $900 for it. They got to make it look nice.
Cell phone bill. UC Berkeley neuroscience student Chappelle Veal lives in the building, which also features its own Amazon locker.
I mean, it's super unfortunate because, like, just the student community here, we don't really have a lot of our family members around this area, so a lot of the mail comes from family members outside of the state or like
Now, postal inspectors offer rewards of up to $100,000 for tips leading to arrests and convictions in these types of cases.
At this point, the Postmaster General needs to go to war.
Well, he is a general.
In Oakland, Henry Lee, KTVU, Fox 2 News.
I can't get over the image of the postal vans in the background of Henry Lee's shot. That is why it's another one of those things where I don't even watch these stories when I'm show prepping because I'm listening to them on my walk. But to see all the graffiti on the postal vans in Oakland, that is a sight.
And isn't it a federal crime to rob a mail van?
Why, yes. Yes, it is.
Okay, so they actually put people in prison.
If they catch them, yes. This is a federal crime. It's a federal crime to deface those vans. It's a federal crime to tamper with the mail. And it's a federal crime to steal the mail or assault a postal carrier. It still happens all the time, unfortunately.
All right, Randy, it's time to reopen the California Crime Blotter.
If the cashier is dummy.
We couldn't make this stuff up if we tried.
I said, hell no, baby boy. Let me get up on out of here.
It's the California Crime Blotter.
And this one takes us to a strip club in San Diego.
This is maybe my favorite crime blotter story of the summer so far. $25,000 was stolen in $1 bills from a San Diego strip club.
Uh-oh.
They are literally going to take this money and put it into a kiddie pool and do the Scrooge McDuck.
Okay, wouldn't this be an easy crime to solve if you have, I don't know, someone show up to a local bank with thousands of dollars in $1 bills? It smells like baby oil.
Well, I'm sure strippers have to do that all the time.
That's true.
For more on this, we got a CBS 8 in San Diego.
We start tonight with a crime caught on camera after a thief walked out of a Kearney Mesa strip club with more than $25,000 in cash.
That's going to take up, like, what, a whole suitcase?
Okay, and he walks into the strip club with a mask on.
It was after hours. I don't think he was going in for a lap dance and then stole the money.
Evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Carlo Cicchetto. Marcella is off tonight. The theft happened early Monday morning at Expose. That's a gentleman's club on Kearney Villa Road.
Didn't even need to say that.
Expose.
No other business is going to be called Expose.
That's where we find News 8's Steffi Roche, who talked to the club's owner.
There is one in Los Angeles that I see advertised all the time where they've got a strip club, but it's also a pool hall, and they call it Dames and Games.
Owner tonight. And Steffi, I understand that owner has a theory on this theft.
That's right. The owner of Expose says yesterday morning over $25,000 in $1 bills was stolen from the club, and he believes this was an inside job. Dino Palmitto, the owner of Expose, shared this surveillance video with News 8. You can see a man jumping the fence onto their patio and breaking in Monday around 5 a.m.
Very aggressive here.
He wants those $1 bills.
And he had to do it at 5 a.m. because the strip club closed at 4 and they open at 6 for the breakfast special.
When he came in, he knew exactly where to go. We believe he was on the phone with somebody.
Palmitto tells me every staff member with access to the safe has their own code tied to their name. While he says he does not recognize the person on surveillance, he says the thief used a code that was linked to a former manager who had been fired 2 months ago.
Sounds like revenge to me.
Okay, so you don't need Matlock to figure this one out.
But here's the question. If you fired a manager, you know that he has access to your safe. Why not delete his code from the system?
That probably would have been a good idea.
You know, it's like if you evict a problem roommate, the first thing you got to do is change the locks.
How big must that safe have been to hold $25,000 in $1 bills?
Probably took up the whole size of the room. What do you think that safe smells like?
He believes the former manager gave the code to the thief. And in a flash, the thief loaded up a duffel bag and he was gone with $25,300 in ones.
Okay. How can you fit that amount of money in one duffel bag, in $1 bills? Maybe in $100 bills, sure. But in $1 bills? Come on.
Well, maybe he only took what he could fit in the bag and there's still a whole bunch of money left in the safe. But I do want to know, maybe you could type into Grok during the break, how many dollar bills can you fit into a duffel bag?
Business owner and a former Marine, there's absolutely no way that we can let this go. We've got to stop these people.
I remember in Breaking Bad, at the end of the second season, Walter White gets a duffel bag with $500,000 in there, but I think those were bigger denominations than $1 bills.
Yeah, I guarantee you that George Washington's mug wasn't on one of them.
Had additional security sensors installed throughout his club when we met with him today. He's also offering a reward for anyone who can...
Well, you already had him on camera, so the security was working, I guess. At least you didn't have an alert system that alerted anybody to it. I guess you got to upgrade something here. Makes you feel a little better. Do you think the strip club owner pays the electrician in $1 bills?
You might.
Help catch the thief.
I'm going to give out $3,000 to whoever brings the information forward. You can report that information to Santa Police Department.
And that will also be paid in $1 bills. That's the currency at Expose.
Well, he knows if he pays you in $1 bills, the money's going to come back to him.
And San Diego police confirmed with me that they are investigating this case. For now, reporting live from Kearney Mesa, I'm Steffi Roche, News 8.
Thanks, Steffi.
So there you go. The case of the $25,000 stolen from a strip club, stuffed into a duffel bag in $1 bills. I'm guessing the clientele at Expose in San Jose isn't tipping a 20 on the dance floor.
Well, maybe they put those $1 bills in Mary Poppins' carpet bag. She seemed to fit a lot in there. It's the John Phillips Show. It's the John Phillips Show. 800-222-5222 is telephone number 1-800-222-5222. And Randy, it's time to reopen the California Crime Blotter.
It's happened yet again.
It's Wild Wild West out here.
It's the California Crime Blotter with John
And Randy.
And this edition of the Blotter takes us to Sacramento,
where someone tried to steal a cop car. For more on this, we go to ABC 10 in Sacramento.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Chris Thomas. We start tonight with new video showing the moments a man was caught on camera driving off in a Sacramento police vehicle. Take a look.
Get it. Hurry up, get it.
Of course, the guy had no shirt and no shoes.
Well, he can't shop at the 7-Eleven.
Oh! Bro, he stole your car.
That he did.
Oh, that's great.
He stole your car.
Police say they were first called to the area for vandalism.
Also, was obviously not wearing a belt.
Fruit just came out of the loom.
ABC 10's Garsh Paul Sunga has a closer look at what happened next.
All of this happened along Marysville Boulevard near Hagenwood Community Center. A disturbance call turned into something few people ever expect to see.
Oh, he finna get the car. Get it. Hurry up, get it.
It's the moment that accelerated the chain of events, from a routine call to the one that needed all hands on deck.
So they left the keys inside?
What do you think this guy's going to think about what he did when the drugs wear off?
Oh! Bro, he stole your car. He stole your car. He stole your car.
I mean, it's a good thing that you had the guy on camera screaming that, or I don't think Sac PD would have even noticed.
No, they had a very loud man doing play-by-play.
Taken by Milo 2 Solid on TikTok, capture the chaotic moments.
All right, everyone, follow Milo 2 Solid on TikTok. It's got some good content out there.
Before the chase, officers were trying to detain a man accused of throwing an object at a woman's car. They say he chased her with a stick and hitting her vehicle window.
My goodness.
What kind of drugs do you think he's on?
Meth.
Probably.
Sounds pretty methy to me.
It's an unhoused subject that threw a bucket at the caller's tire and went after the caller with a large stick at her vehicle window.
Radio traffic captured the moment.
You know what this guy needs? Some housing.
Oh, yeah. The high cost of housing just forces this guy to do the damnedest things.
Officers realized the suspect had taken off.
Took my patrol car. He's going over. Copy, northbound in patrol car.
We're westbound 80, moderate traffic, 80 miles an hour, traffic shielding.
I copy. We're going to be westbound 80. We're up to 110 right now.
I want everybody to move to the downtown channel so the suspect can't listen to us.
Oh, that's right. It's got to be really difficult to track someone who stole a cop car because the guy who stole the cop car can hear the police radio.
Could you imagine if you're just trying to commute home from work and you see a crackhead driving a black and white on the freeway next to you?
Suspect does have the rifle from the patrol car and he's holding it out the window.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. Step 1, take the keys out. Step 2, lock the cop car if you've got a weapon inside of it.
Pursuit was eventually handed over to CHP. It ended near Lodi, where police say the suspect surrendered without incident.
That's when the meth wore off.
And he thought to himself, what in the world did I just do?
Grateful that no officers were injured during this incident.
Police identified the suspect as 28-year-old Isaac Pavel of Sacramento. Investigators say he has a local criminal history.
You don't say.
That's a shocker.
And is on pretrial probation for DUI.
Of course he is.
So he likes all kinds of substances.
Sacramento police are also investigating whether he accessed a rifle inside the patrol vehicle.
Said whether this rifle was actually removed from the safety lock by the suspect, that'll be a part of the investigation as well. We'll figure out if that did happen, how it happened. But those weapons that are in the vehicle are locked up.
That is a wild one.
Well, they'll give him a shirt and shoes in the county jail. Enjoy. We've got one more hour coming up on the John Phillips Show. Don't you go anywhere.
disagree, but our views are unapologetically right. It's the John Phillips Show.
And we continue at 2:05 in the afternoon on the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wings in Culver City.
John, it is hour 3 of our very first live video stream. We're streaming live on YouTube at the Cumulus News Talk channel. We got a whole bunch of people in there playing around in the chat room. We're trying to figure out how to add that chat room to the one that we can pop up on the screen. Hopefully we'll have that for you tomorrow. We're also on X at Johnny Don't Like. We're on the KABC Facebook page, the KSFO Facebook page, and my Twitch channel at Randy Wang Radio. If you need help finding any of those links, just go to kabc.com or ksfo.com. You can now watch all 3 hours of this show and react to the crazy stories that we're playing live with us every single day on live video.
We're essentially everywhere except for Turner Classic Films.
That's coming next.
800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. Well, the foul odor in Boyle Heights isn't the only thing that residents are dealing with in the aftermath of the big fire.
No, they're also dealing with the idiocy that is the government of Los Angeles. Shangi, I think you know what to say.
The bureaucracy is real.
Because LAPD decided to tow vehicles to make room for fire trucks in dealing with this emergency, and then decided to, instead of just moving them, impound them and charge a bunch of fees to the people that were doing nothing wrong, that were not illegally parking cars, whatever.
Well, they not only lost their sense of smell, they lost their Nissan Altima.
Well, let's see if we can find it anywhere. I bet you we can.
There's an Altima ALTMA 4899410. Please move it now. You're blocking someone.
For more on this parking snafu in Boyle Heights, here is CBS LA.
So new here at 5. A CBS California investigation found that several families are facing an added financial strain. Cell phone video shows the LAPD towing nearly 10 cars last week during the emergency response.
Can you imagine the amount of soot that's been on those cars?
Just when you think your life can't get any worse, guess what? You now have no ride.
And investigative reporter Jeff DeWin talked to the people impacted.
And Jeff, you went to City Hall to ask whether officers had other options during an emergency.
That's right, Rutabaga and Pat. Let's go ahead and set the scene for you because many of the cars that were impacted have been parked along that fence line right there. The owners tell us that they were not parked illegally, so we went to City Hall to ask whether those people were in the wrong.
That's not fair, man.
I know, it's not me. I didn't cause the fire. We just ripped it off.
It's not my fault, too.
Martin Ramirez making an emotional...
Now, wait a minute. Wasn't this the guy that was also throwing up in the earlier report?
It's the exact same guy. He did the report with Matthew Seedorf about having to dry vomit while working on cars, but he also had a bunch of the cars that he was working on that were parked on the street towed.
Well, that's not service with a smile when you come to pick it up.
Plea to an LAPD officer.
They made me cry.
As his car and others belonging to his...
This guy is having a really bad week.
Yeah, no kidding.
Customers were towed last Tuesday in Boyle Heights.
One right here, 2, 3, and 4.
Have you ever had a problem with parking those cars here before?
No.
He owns an auto repair shop near the site of the Lineage warehouse fire. He says he was willing to move the cars to make way for emergency vehicles. Instead, they were towed and impounded.
So instead of just calling this guy who already has the keys and can quickly move these cars out of the way, they said, screw it, bring in the tow trucks.
They said, we're not talking to that guy. He has vomit on his breath.
We asked for time.
Stop being selfish.
I know, but come on.
The LAPD says 9 vehicles.
Did they just tell the guy who they towed his cars unnecessarily, stop being selfish?
They did say that to him.
Come on, LAPD. It's this kind of crap that just gives ammunition to the Nithya and Hugo crowd.
Were towed. 5 had expired registrations.
Okay, well, that's part of the story.
But they weren't parked illegally. And
No.
Johnny, the last time I checked, maybe I'm wrong about this, but there's RVs littering the entire city of Los Angeles that have way more than just expired registrations that we're not towing.
Well, if this guy's going to park a car, 5 cars with expired registrations on the street, then you should expect to say adios to those cars.
Now, they're not his cars, they're clients' cars, and maybe they're not registered because they're currently not working. Maybe you don't want to pay for the registration until you get it fixed up.
Now, I'm just going to connect 2 stories that we've done here today. Now, see if I'm on to something. Maybe the bills from the DMV were in those mail trucks that got robbed, and his clients never got the bill. As opposed to them just being dirtbags.
You know, there's definitely a possibility.
And was non-operational. In this recording, the officer appears to cite a vehicle code applied to cars impeding or obstructing an operation.
They're being impounded 2261N.
But former federal prosecutor Nima Rahmani says vehicle code 22651N only applies if a vehicle is parked illegally.
If people were not parked illegally, then the code section LAPD is citing is the wrong code section. Those vehicles can be moved, but the owners should not and will not have to pay for the cost of the tow.
Yeah, it's one thing to, okay, we got to move these cars. We got an emergency right here. Why are you impounding them and then charging this guy all kinds of fees?
Have you ever had a car towed before?
Yes.
Okay. I had a car towed. I'm not going to say under similar circumstances because my situation was, let's just call it a one-off. But Al Rantel, who was a longtime talk show host on KABC, and I went to San Quentin for the execution of Tukey Williams. And we were there earlier in the day. I think we started broadcasting at 11 in the morning. And we were not only doing his show, he did 2 shows. He did one from 11 to 11:45 and one from 6 to 10. But we were doing live hits. We were doing 2 ways with other radio programs on the radio station and then in the network. So we were there working all day. So it gets to 3, 4 in the afternoon. We did a hit with, I think it was Larry Elder. And then we go, we're hungry. Let's go to dinner. And I said, but the angry mob that's coming here to protest the execution, it's getting bigger. And I think if we move the car, we're not going to find any place to park the car. So I told Al, I said, let's just leave the car right there. He said, okay, that sounds right. That makes sense. So we call a cab and we go into town. We have a lovely lunch. We do some sightseeing. We walk around. We see everything that they have to offer over there. And then we're in another cab coming back to the prison to do show number 2. And I notice the car's not there. And I notice it when I'm sitting in the back seat of the cab. And I turn to Al and I go, Al, are you seeing what I'm seeing? And he goes, yeah, where's the car? I said, well, I parked it right there. It's no longer there. I don't know what happened. And so that's when we found out they set up a temporary no parking area because the mob kept getting bigger and they didn't want the cars to be damaged. So they towed the car. And Al and I, when we left, no one would come and pick us up there because of the mob. So we had to walk alongside the freeway for like 2 or 3 exits before someone was willing to pick us up.
My story's not nearly as fun. I was at an umami burger in Orange County, and the parking lot was full, so I parked across the street in front of a dumpster that said, don't park here. I came out, couldn't find my car, and then I had to figure out where it was and pay $400. Actually, excuse me, borrow $400 from my friend who I went to dinner with to get the car out of impound.
Was the burger good?
The burger was fantastic, but I don't know if it was worth $400.
He says the LAPD could have used another vehicle code in which cars are relocated instead of impounded.
That's not fair, man. It's not fair.
LA City Council member Isabel.
Guy's so pissed off. I get it. Now he's got his clients calling him saying, where the hell is my car?
Parado represents the area.
This emergency response is something that was warranted, but really, but for the fire, they would not have their cars towed and have this additional expense.
Management of the official police garage says it has waived all towing and storage fees, but it cannot do anything about a number of city fees that have been charged.
Shangy, you were right the whole time, my girl.
The bureaucracy is real.
A statement, LA Mayor Karen Bass's office.
This is as dumb as when the Palisades burned down and the LAFD sent out a whole bunch of notices saying, if you don't trim your brush, we're going to fine you.
To people who no longer had a house.
Yep.
Says these actions have unfortunately created a hardship for our residents, and we are committed to returning their vehicles as quickly as possible without any additional costs. Juan Canil had his truck impounded. He was charged $100 in fees to get it back. His wife telling us the money is extra crucial since the fire has kept her husband's customers away.
Right now, with all the expense that everything is, it's very expensive. So, you know, $100 is $100 that we could buy in food too.
Geraldo says,
think about how much money they've had to spend on masks.
Well, and just imagine when she was trying to calm her husband down. She has limited options. It's not like she can look at the guy and say, you know what? You're getting pretty hot-headed over this. Take a step outside, take a deep breath, and calm down.
That's probably when we saw him dry vomiting on Cedor's report. Poor guy.
She plans to introduce a motion on Wednesday to waive all remaining city fees and map out new protocols for the future.
And so looking at what is the appropriate code, how can we make sure folks are notified, and if they've already paid or whatever fees they've incurred, how can we make them whole in this instance and in future instances as well?
Geraldo's office says while her motion is going through the legislative process, they have fast-tracked things so that there are no fees when people go to pick up their cars. And in addition to that, anyone who has already paid a fee, well, those folks are eligible for a refund check.
How long do you think that process takes?
Oh, that guy's kids are going to be graduated from college before that check gets there.
More on this process.
All right, who's going to get their check first? The people trying to get the refund from the impound, or us with that settlement from SAG-AFTRA?
Well, and I can also guarantee you this. The mail truck with the refund check on it is also going to get robbed.
You can go to our website, which is cbsla.com. Be sure to click Seen on TV. For now, we are live in Boyle Heights. Jeff Nguyen, CBS LA.
All right, thanks so much, Jeff. And if you have a tip for Jeff and our CBS California Investigates team, just go to cbsla.com/tips.
They do great work. I'm a big fan of that investigative team. That is for sure.
I love the fact that none of this guy's clients pay for their tags. You know what it reminds me of?
What's that?
It reminds me of all of the illegal dumping going on in Oakland, where you have people who are essentially struggling to pay their bills. And then you have this artificial fee, this artificially high fee that makes it so that a lot of people just feel like they can't pay it. So instead of paying the fee to dump your items at the city dump, because it's so expensive, what do? They just dump it on a city street or a city sidewalk or an empty lot or whatever.
We found out when there was all of the uproar about all of the illegal dumping going on, all of the fires going on in the Sepulveda Payson, which is just a couple of miles away from my house. The Encino Neighborhood Councils invited everyone to talk about why this is happening, why there is so much debris in there that is catching fire when the homeless start fires. And one of the things that we found out is that currently in the city of Los Angeles, it is cheaper to get caught illegal dumping and pay the fine than go take your load to the dump.
And the same is true with the car tax. The unions want tax dollars so that they can take care of their members. So they have to find ways to tax the population. And one of those ways is through the vehicle license fee. And the vehicle license fee in California is expensive. It's why we have a fight over it every so often. Well, you can go ahead and win the battle, but do you actually win the war? Because what happens when you jack those fees up so high is that people who can't afford to pay them don't. So you have one class of people who pays all of their bills, and they grumble about it going up, and they grumble about it being expensive, but they just write the check and they send it in the mail that hopefully it gets there and that truck doesn't get robbed. But then you have a whole population of people that goes, well, if it's that expensive, I'm not going to pay it.
Well, it goes even further than that in the city of Los Angeles. Because of the city of Los Angeles banning what they call pretextual stops, currently, although they're still working on the exact way this is going to work out, but the LAPD is soon going to be banned from pulling people over for expired registration. You can't pull someone over for expired registration. You can't pull someone over for expired tags. You can't pull someone over for a broken taillight. You can only pull someone over if they're speeding or driving recklessly. So if you can't get pulled over for an expired registration, at what point do you say, screw it, I'm not paying the $300?
Well, and it's like they don't make the connection. So, okay, if no one's paying the fee, then why is no one paying the fee? Are they not paying it because they can't afford it? Are they not paying it because they're just criminals and criminals don't follow the rules? What is the reason that they're not paying it? Well, if they're not paying it because they can't afford it, and that's why you want to ban the cops from pulling them over if their tags are expired, okay, then why not just do something about the problem in the first place, which is that it's too expensive, and lower the fee? But they can't do that because then they'd have to cross the unions. The unions would go bonkers if suddenly someone in Sacramento said we should have a tax cut on the vehicle license fee.
It's one of the things that Steve Hilton's running on, make it a flat $71 tax for everybody. How he landed on $71, I have no idea.
I don't know either, but I bet you more people would pay it.
You know how much it is for mine because it's a newer car and it's an EV and EVs are very heavy? It is like $500 or $600. But here's the one thing I'll tell you, because I didn't know this until I was trying to find every loophole in the book to lower my tax bill. Did you know that you can write off your vehicle registration fees on your taxes?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's part of the reason I pay someone to do my taxes.
It's a good little trick.
You know who hasn't paid that tax in years? Wesley Snipes. Some other ones, too. Okay, if Steve Hilton gets elected and he changes the vehicle license fee to $71, out of 5 of that guy's customers, how many of them do you think would actually pay the $71?
I'm going to go with 3.
The correct answer is 0. It's the John Phillips Show. All right, I want to tell you about a great service, CarPro.com, and I want to start out by reading you a portion of a 5-star review that was written by listener Eddie from Pasadena. Here is what Eddie had to say about his experience with CarPro.com. I had a tricky financing situation. Sandra and her team came through for me. His purchase happened at Toyota of Pasadena. His experience is not unique. It is what happens with so many of the customers of CarPro.com. It's such an easy process that leads to VIP concierge service when it's time for you to buy a car. Here's what you have to do if you want an experience like Eddie's. Go to CarPro.com, enter your zip code and what you're looking for. Or you can call or text message Tom Haynes, the head honcho, directly on a cell phone at 818-435-6797. That's 818-435-6797. Stop doing it the hard way. Go to CarPro.com. John Phillips Show. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you could be like so many of our listeners in Southern California and the Bay and watch us perform the show live on your computer or phone.
We are now live video streaming every single day in addition to the radio show, which you, of course, can listen to at kabc.com, ksfo.com, or on the AM dial. But you can now watch us. The links are all available at kabc.com and ksfo.com, but let me break them down. On YouTube, you can go to Cumulus News Talk. Unfortunately, the only problem with YouTube is we can't get the chat feed there to show up on the streaming software. So if you want to comment on the show and you want your comments to show up on the screen and we can respond to them in real time, then you might want to check us out on X at Johnny Don't Like, on Facebook, on KABC or KSFO's page, respectively. Or my Twitch is also a great way to enter the chat. I tested it by putting a Shang Tao
Absolutely.
in the chat, and that works as well. That is twitch.tv/Randy Wang Radio. But all of those links are on the websites. No matter how you watch us, we're happy to have you here. And during the breaks, I am trying to go over to the chat room on YouTube and play around in there. It is a lot of fun having this much interactivity during the noon to 3 show, where usually we check the email, maybe we get a phone call, but it's really cool seeing how many people are listening and participating all at the same time. This is a blast.
We also have a standalone podcast that just launched today.
And you should listen to it if you haven't had a chance to at 3 o'clock after the show, the Accountability Podcast with John Phillips and Randy Wang. There are links to it at kabc.com and ksfo.com. You can also search for KABC on Apple Podcasts or go to YouTube, youtube.com/@Accountability Podcast. If you have any trouble finding it, send us an email and I'll send you the links right away.
We have 30 more minutes to go right here on The John Phillips Show.
I love my Solaire infrared grill. I have had it for over a year now, and I use it every week to do the best job on steaks. Works on any kind of steak. I have used it a lot to do a flat iron. That's my favorite cut of meat. But it also, I've done it on a top sirloin. It is great. I'm thinking about doing a tri-tip maybe in the next couple of weeks where I'll smoke it and then I'll finish it on the Solaire. Oh, that'd be really nice. Do it with chicken breast, do it with sausages, do it with shrimp. It's a hot and fast cook. The thing heats up to 1,000 degrees in just 3 minutes, and that makes it so accessible to be grilling. And because you're not waiting for 20 minutes for the grill to heat up, I feel like my propane tank think has lasted forever. I don't think I've changed it in a very long time. BestHotGrill.com/Randy is where you go. Check out the grill for yourself. Rhett Rasmussen does a great job with these things at his factory in Whittier. I visited. So see if this grill makes sense for you. When you're ready to upgrade your grilling game, go to BestHotGrill.com/Randy.
It's the John Phillips Show. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you can watch us perform the show live today. Today's the first day where we've done that for the audience to be able to watch and participate in the show. And you can also tell us just exactly where you are while you're watching.
This is a lot of fun because, you know, it's nice to really understand where people are listening from, whether you're listening locally in Southern California or in the Bay Area. I had somebody send me a video when you were on vacation a couple of weeks ago of him listening to the show while driving the Golden Gate Bridge, and it was the coolest thing I had ever seen. I was like, that is amazing. That makes this feel real. But with the addition to live radio streaming and live video streaming, people are listening from all over the place. So sure, we have listeners like Zoe's mom, who is listening from Villa Park, California. But we also have listeners that are listening in New Jersey. And heck, we've even got listener David, who listens all the way from Johannesburg in South Africa for years now. I love hearing that. If you want to tell us where you're listening from, you can email us or you can comment on the Facebook, the Twitter, or the Twitch. You can also try to do it on the YouTube, and I will just look over at the other screen. Like, we've got one from Whittier. Love that. Whittier's great. That's where the girls are prettier.
I wonder if anyone's listening to us or watching us today on a cruise ship.
If anybody is currently on a Royal Caribbean cruise ship, maybe with a phone in one hand, watching the show, and the slot machine in the other hand, we gots to know.
It's possible, I guess. All right. There is an initiative in the city of Los Angeles to allow non-citizens to participate in local elections. And Randy, you have an update for us on that one.
Yeah, because that initiative just died in the city council after massive pushback from a whole bunch of interest groups. And they realized that this idea, which was being put forth by DSA city councilman Hugo Soto Martinez,
let's criminalize catalytic converters, let's criminalize copper,
would have backfired on them in many different ways. For more on this, we go to a quick report from CBS Los Angeles.
At 5, the LA City Council is deciding to pull 2 measures from the Charter Reform Commission, one about voting, the other about the city's police force.
CBS LA assignment editor Mike Rogers is at the desk with why the council voted against sending the items to voters. Mike.
Yeah, Pat and Rudabeh, both of these items were needed to be approved by the city council and then by voters, but they're going to stop short of being sent to voters after the city council today voted to pull them. The first one, they voted unanimously.
Boy, they made a whole lot of hubbub about this for nothing.
Well, I think that if they didn't generate a lot of negative attention, they almost certainly would have moved forward with this.
Pull this one.
Well, here's the big backfire, and Hugo didn't realize, okay, if you're going to have all these non-citizens vote, that means that you're going to have a whole bunch of people in the country illegally voting in LA city elections, which then kind of gives the government a registry of who all of these people are and their addresses.
Well, and then you also have to run different elections, because typically what happens if you're voting in a city election, let's say you're voting for mayor, the people running for Congress are also on the ballot, because they make sure that those dates, the dates of the election, are on the same day. Well, you can't allow someone who's in the country illegally to have a ballot with a federal office on that ballot. So you'd have to have a completely separate election for city elections or whatever level of government it is where you're going to allow illegal aliens to vote, which is going to cost a lot of money.
Allowed non-citizens to vote in local municipal elections. The charter reform item would have called for a mixed documentation vote here, meaning that people can still vote as long as they are DACA recipients or have some other sort of legal status but are not U.S. citizens. Now, many on the council initially approved of this, but then today they unanimously pulled it off. Many said they heard from constituents and other leaders in the community that had concerns over that item. The second one,
in a city council that likes to discuss race about everything, this really pissed off black voters, and they did not like that going into November.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because Karen Bass is going to need those voters to stave off this fight from Nithya.
One would be the city's ability to govern over the Los Angeles Police Department. Right now, the LAPD is purely governed by the chief as well as the police commission, but this reform item would have allowed the city council to have some control over the LAPD. They ended up pulling that one after LA Police Protective League, which is a union representing the majority of LAPD personnel, threatened to sue the city over the charter reform amendment.
And that's another one where the city council is trying to protect Karen Bass. So another thing the DSA people tried to put in this charter reform is more direct city council control over how LAPD can do their jobs. And because the LAPPL has endorsed Karen Bass, they actually have a lot of maneuvering right now and can twist her into doing all kinds of things that gets their way, because Karen Bass is running against the DSA.
Saying that they did not negotiate with the union in good faith prior to taking up the vote. Now, it doesn't mean that both of these items are dead. They will both now be pushed back to committees and back to for further reviews before being brought back to the council. And then at some point, the council still has the ability to send it to voters. It just won't be through the charter reform process. Guys?
Thanks so much, Mike.
So there you go. Hugo Soto Martinez's plan to allow people in the country illegally to vote doesn't even go to the voters. There was a whole lot of issues with how it was going to disenfranchise people, or even put the people that they want to all of a sudden enfranchise in legal jeopardy. So that's why they stopped that one.
Well, think about this in any other context. Allowing people who do not qualify to vote to cast a ballot. And by qualify, I mean being 18 years of age, being a citizen, not being in prison, the whole thing. Think about a union election, because people at City Hall are controlled by the unions. And if you're going to be the president of a union, or you're going to be the council rep or whatever, you have to win an election. That's how they operate. They're very strict in terms of who they allow to participate in those elections. You just can't be someone off the street and go, you know what? I really feel like I have a stake in the outcome as to who is going to be the next union president for the firefighters. So give me a ballot. No, unless you're a dues-paying member of that union, you don't have a ballot. You don't have a say. Yeah, okay, maybe you live in that city where that particular fire department would be called if there's a fire at your house. That's fine, so they impact you. But you're not a member. You don't get a ballot. How about HOAs? HOAs are very strict on who they allow to vote. There was a controversy in my HOA as to whether or not someone could serve on the board if the home was in his wife's name and not in his. And he won the election and then got kicked off the board because they determined he was not eligible.
Wow.
The bureaucracy is real.
Think about the Oscars. We mentioned Bob Hope hosting the Oscars earlier. If you're not a member of the Academy, you don't get to vote on who wins Best Picture. You could be some idiot at the Cineplex that goes to the movies once a week, and you think that you're an expert on the cinema. You don't get a ballot. That's not how it works.
Well, at least for right now, it looks like the only people that are going to be able to vote in the city of Los Angeles are citizens of the United States, and the only people that will vote in city of LA elections are about 20% of those.
Maybe the figuring is, well, if the citizens have screwed up the city of LA this bad, the illegals couldn't do any more harm. It's the John Phillips Show. It's the John Phillips Show. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, I think, now we have 12 more minutes to go, but so far, on the first episode of this program, being on the radio and then having the visual element on the computer and the phone, I think it's gone off like a Swiss clock so far.
Everything is working really well technically. I'm making sure that the audio balancing, that I can only hear what's going on the radio. I can't hear what's going on in the video, so I'm trying to balance that as best I can. And the only other issue that we have so far is the people that are chatting on YouTube. I can't bring that stuff up on the screen, but I am reading them during the breaks. We got a shout out from Healdsburg during the break. We got a shout out from Whittier during the break. People are having a lot of fun with this. This is a real party, and we're very excited to be doing it this way every single day, and you can be a part of this if you want to listen for the next 11 minutes or you want to watch us tomorrow. You can get all the links at kabc.com or ksfo.com, or go to YouTube, Cumulus News Talk, on X, Johnny Don't Like, on Facebook, KABC or KSFO, or Twitch. Twitch makes it really easy as well, and there's a great chat feature in there, twitch.tv/Randy Wang Radio. Either way, we're so glad to have you not just listening on the radio, but watching as well. It has really added a whole new layer of interactivity that we don't usually get doing the 3-hour show, especially because usually, Johnny, I'm by myself in this studio talking to you, not being able to see you. So usually for 3 hours, I'm just talking to myself.
And people were asking earlier how I'm doing with the paint fumes from the wall behind me. You'll know tomorrow if you listen to a story in the blotter where I end up taking my shirt off and taking over a black and white patrol car. Then you'll know the fumes got to me.
Tony's asking on the YouTube chat if my 5 o'clock show, the News Blitz, is going to be on video as well. Not yet, but I think we're going to work on that in the next couple of months or so for sure. Let's make sure these 3 hours work great before we start expanding this to anything else. And on top of this, Johnny, of course, we're also doing the weekly Accountability Podcast, which is a brand new exclusive content video podcast show that you can get at youtube.com/@accountabilitypodcast and hear why we break down Gavin Newsom will never, ever, ever be president.
Accountability, accountability, accountability.
All right, Randy, I think we have time for one more installment to the California Crime Blotter, so let's open it up.
It's happened yet again.
I see. Time for the California Crime Blotter.
And this edition involves, well, a familiar topic, Pokemon.
And a brand new Pokemon card store has already been burglarized. For more on this, we go to NBC in Los Angeles.
For the second time in 2 months, burglars targeted the same trading card store in Pico Robertson. This is the latest in a string of break-ins at collector shops in Southern California. NBC4's Tracy Leong is live in Pico Robertson for us with surveillance video of this latest crime. Tracy.
Yeah, Carolyn, and you can see this temporary board now covering the front door, replacing the glass that was shattered during the burglary.
At what point do these stores just not even start with glass? Because the glass is going to get shattered.
You know, Pokemon has to be the most in-demand thing right now going, which is surprising that Ozempic is still being sold too.
As you mentioned, this is the second time they have had a burglary here at this location in less than 2 months.
And those are the only 2 months they've been open.
Not a fun way to start out.
No.
And they say the recent upgrades they made after the first break-in helped to limit the damage.
This is why you need to watch the videos.
Holy hell.
They just rammed through that thing and then tried to take down the barrier of the Pokemon card store.
And they were successful.
Surveillance footage shows two people forcing their way.
Oh, it's called TM32. That's a reference John's never going to get.
Nope.
Into Pokemall TCG in Pico Robertson just before 3 Tuesday morning. After smashing.
These people are violent.
Yeah, look at all those kicks. I feel like I'm watching the World Cup.
Typically, you imagine they've got a crowbar, they got a hammer. These people are kicking like they're Hitmonlee to crash out the glass to steal probably the Hitmonlee Pokemon cards.
The glass door, they quickly moved through the store, grabbing.
Robber used Mega Kick. It was critical effectiveness.
Where do you think those two went? UC Berkeley or Stanford?
A few items before rushing back out in less than a minute. A third person is seen waiting at the entrance. They then take off in a black sedan.
So I do not recognize them, but as soon as if we look at the clips, they knew exactly where to go, where the most valuable stuff are.
Pokemall TCG co-owner Hoban Lee says they only stole about $300 worth of merchandise. Their store sells Pokemon cards and collectibles. This is their second burglary in 2 months, and they've only been open since May.
How would you like to be in that same strip mall where you had peace and tranquility, and then a card shop opens up and you go, okay, well, that's good. It'll drive people to the shopping center. And then they get robbed every 15 minutes.
You typically, when you're a business in a strip mall, like let's say you're a tax place or you're a beauty salon, and the smoke shop moves in, you're like, well, that's going to bring in the wrong element. Unfortunately, now, when the trading card store moves in, that's going to bring in the wrong element.
But after the first break-in, they changed their security protocols.
We do take all the necessary measures of taking even non-valuables out, away, and then put into a safe location, like safes, for example.
Think about this. This store has to take down all the stock, put it somewhere safe, and then put it out every single day because people are going to steal the pieces of paper.
Well, what they're going to ultimately end up having to do is booby trap the shop at night, like that Home Alone kid that Michael Jackson was so fond of.
To make sure that if there is an attempted robbery, then our products are really safe.
The owners say they're grateful they made security upgrades to protect their business and livelihood.
Feeling relieved because they didn't, try to do more damage to the building trying to find inventory, right?
I mean, they only destroyed the door and destroyed a whole bunch of display cases, but at least they didn't burn the place down.
I love the fact that he's giving a shout out to the burglars for being polite with the damage.
This guy's an optimist.
But also feeling a sense of justice that we did the right things.
Pokemon cards are part of a booming collectibles market. This recent break-in comes amid a string of similar thefts targeting shops that carry the high-value merchandise. In January, about $300,000 worth of Pokemon cards were stolen from RWT Collective in Sawtell.
You heard that right. $300,000 worth of Pokemon cards.
I think that one made the blotter, too.
Yes, it did. They always do.
And during that same month, surveillance footage caught burglars breaking into Simi Sports Cards in Simi Valley.
You know, when they play the footage of them breaking into the store sped up, I feel like it needs that Benny Hill music in the background.
Stealing about $50,000 worth of valuable cards. In February, security cameras captured thieves ransacking Dewey's Collectibles in Anaheim.
You know what this story shows you? That the best use of all the security camera footage is to the local news, because I don't think the police has done much with any of this.
Well, they're all getting hit. So they're talking about Dewey's in Anaheim got hit. Well, give it 10 minutes and Huey and Louie are going to get robbed too.
Stealing more than $180,000 worth of Pokemon cards. Pokemall TCG co-owner Leonard Delanrintu says this experience has reinforced how important it is for businesses to take extra steps to secure their storefronts.
You should really treat everything like a jewelry store and really secure everything that you have, taking the extra...
You know, I went to a jewelry store over the weekend to get my wedding ring resized because I lost too much weight. They have an armed guard. It might be time for the Pokemon store to also have an armed guard.
Maybe he should consider a moat with alligators. All right, that's going to do it for us today, but we'll be back tomorrow at noon, both on your radio and your computer and smartphone, right here on The John Phillips Show.